Rabbi Friedman, what a great pleasure and an honor to have you with us again. It's every time, it's an absolute blessing, an absolute treat, and we'll never get over that. So thank you so much. I'd like to dedicate today's program to baseless hatred, because tomorrow night we will commemorate 1950th year of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, the second Jewish temple, which was destroyed due to bad relationships amongst people. It was Jewish people, but it's not only Jewish people who treat each other badly. So I would, of course, like to address this topic for absolutely everybody, because everybody does listen to RSA radio, whether they're religious or not, observant, not Jewish, Jewish, not Jewish, doesn't matter. So let's please address this topic that has been affecting humanity since the beginning of times. And have we learned anything in this 1950 years?
Very interesting. I was just listening this morning to a talk by a man whose father was in the German army during World War II, and the son converted to Judaism. So I haven't finished listening to, I didn't get to the punchline yet, but fascinating how the hatred that he heard from his father actually drove him to convert. But let's like you say, let's try to understand what this phenomenon is. What is baseless hatred? If I hate you because I'm jealous, because you have what I want, is that baseless?
Not really.
Yeah, it seems like I have a reason. Now you can say jealousy is baseless, but now we're two steps removed. The jealousy is baseless. There's no point, there's no reason, there's no benefit that comes from being jealous. It's pointless, and yet it produces hatred. So I guess what is pointless will produce things that are pointless. But what exactly is hatred? What does that mean? Why does the existence of things disturb you so deeply that you hate it? So first of all, we have to know that hatred is a relationship. Now that famous expression, familiarity breeds contempt. When you get overly familiar with someone, it leads to contempt. I think the difference between contempt and hatred involves me with the person I hate. It's a relationship. I'm caught up. I'm obsessing about you. I'm reacting to you. You're moving me, but in a negative way. Contempt means I write you off, you're out of my life, you don't mean anything to me. It's the end of a relationship, which in some way is worse. It's colder, it's more dangerous. You know, the dehumanizing of the enemy is what allows a person to kill his enemy without conscience. So you don't kill because you hate. Hate involves you with the person you hate. So in some sense, as I heard somebody explain, Christians never decided to annihilate Jews. Torture, forced conversion, pogroms, localized, but never like the Nazi plan of annihilation, God forbid. Because there was a hatred between Christians, from the Christian to the Jew. Hatred does not lead to genocide. It's almost like, if you kill out all your enemies, who are you going to hate? Yeah. You don't want to be left with no one to hate. But when you have contempt, that's more dangerous. That's colder. That's more vicious. And so what is it that makes us hate someone? So if we talk, for example, jealousy, I want what you have. So I hate the fact that you have it and I don't, because I want that. See, that's a relationship. I see something in you that I want. So I can't dismiss you. I can't despise you out of my life. I want what you have. In a sense, I want to be like you. So there is anti-Semitism, for example, one form of hatred that we're familiar with. There is anti-Semitism that comes from jealousy. Why are you the chosen people? I want to be the chosen people. In other words, being chosen is valuable. It's desirable. You have it and I don't. So that doesn't lead me to the conclusion of annihilate my enemy or the one I'm jealous of, because that's my role model. I want to be like you. But then there's a deeper, uglier form of jealousy. It's not that I want what you have. I don't want you to have it. Much more vicious. It's not like if we both had it, I would be happy. I don't want you to have it. So I would like to have it all, and you should have none. Or, if I can't have it, then you shouldn't have it either. That's particularly noxious. That comes more from a feeling of inadequacy on my part. It's not just that I want what you have. Your having reminds me of my inadequacy. And I hate being reminded. So if nobody was better than me, then I wouldn't be reminded that I was not good. So I would, because I am on a lower level, I want to bring the whole world down to my level or below my level so I can feel superior. That's the two types of anti-Semitism that we're familiar with. In the story of Purim, in Megillas Esther, the story of Esther, there were two anti-Semites that the Jews were threatened by in the story of Purim, in ancient Persia. There was Haman, who wanted to annihilate the Jewish people. And then there was the king, Ahasuerus, who empowered him, or authorized him, agreed with him. Go ahead and do it. They were experiencing these two kinds of jealousy, or these two kinds of hatred. Haman felt inadequate, and the Jews reminded him of his inadequacy. So he felt a need to destroy. Achashverosh, on the other hand, he felt that I would like to have what they have. So he wasn't as dangerous. When Esther came and said, "Hey, these are my people you're talking about," he immediately changed his mind. So Haman says, "Let me annihilate these people." And Achashverosh says, "Yeah, they're in my kingdom and I don't need them." So he wasn't feeling inadequate. He was just feeling that, why should they have more than I have? In our personal lives, we have these same experiences. There's a good form of jealousy, and that is, I want what you have. You have something admirable, I want it too. Maybe that's not jealousy, maybe that's envy, or the other way around, I'm not sure the exact definition of the words. But they are two different experiences, emotions. So what makes me hate? Well, either because the inequality disturbs me. You have more than I, or even I have more problems than you. Inequality. There's a certain desire that we have for absolute equality, where there is nothing to be jealous of, there's nothing to steal, there's nothing to covet, because I have everything you have and you have nothing I don't have. That would not be a good world. That's enervation. You simply stop feeling anything and everything, and not good. But there is that desire for perfect balance, perfect symmetry. Anything asymmetrical disturbs me. So if you have something I don't have, that disrupts my idea of a perfect universe. Perfect balance. It's like some people love San Diego. The temperature is always 72. Sometimes it goes down to 71, and that disturbs them. But it doesn't happen often enough for them to leave. And then there are people who say, how can you live like that? The same temperature, the same every single day? You never have to shovel any snow? They love the changes. In the advertising world, in the visual arts, there's the appeal that sells, that comes from symmetry. A perfectly balanced photo, a perfectly balanced face is considered beautiful when it's perfectly symmetrical. And they use that in advertising. But then there's also the appeal of the asymmetrical. Like put the picture a little off-center, and that catches people's eye. Some will hate it. But then some people hate the ordinary and the predictable and the symmetrical. So there's something interesting in the asymmetrical. But in life, when life is a little asymmetrical, it disturbs some people deeply. They hate it. So you might say that the hatred comes from a desire of a perfect world. the need for perfection, the intolerance to imperfection. Like there are certain people, if you take it to an extreme, some people cannot go to sleep at night if the picture hanging on the wall is a little off, a little crooked. They'll try to go to sleep, but it'll bother them. They have to get out of bed and go back and straighten out the picture. Then they can sleep. I don't know what the official title for that is. Fastidious, perfectionists. But that's what creates hatred. The need for perfection. So there is that silver lining. There is something positive about hatred. Intolerance of imperfection. But you got to know where to put that. Venting it on others is obviously not a solution. So people who are angry should stop and consider, what's making me angry? What is this perfect world that I am so desperate for, that makes me hate the imperfections of the world? And why am I blaming others for it? The world is not symmetrical, with or without human beings. So I got to make peace with the world, and if I want perfection, I have to produce it. You can't expect it from nature. Nature is made up of imbalances or checks and balances.
Then the question is, were we able to produce it in this almost 2,000 years?
I think the first step towards healthy thinking is to be disillusioned with the unhealthy. We can't skip that step. We can't just want perfection and never having experienced the imperfection. So if we can genuinely reject the imperfect world that we're used to, because we see its flaws, we see its ugly side, and then we try to bring about the perfection or the improvement leading to perfection, then we have a productive use for the anger, for the hatred, for the feeling of something off, something disturbing the perfect equilibrium, like in the Garden of Eden. So I think Adam and Eve, even after a few hours of the Garden of Eden, were fascinated by a tree that was a little off, because everything else was just so perfect. It was so boring. So God actually said, of the fruits of all the trees you may eat. And they said, oh, boring. Well, they're all good. That's so boring. So if they're all good, which one should I eat? What's the difference? They're all good. But then they were told that there's a tree that is not so good. That was intriguing. The asymmetrical, the exception to the rule, the disturbing factor, that draws our attention. But instead of getting angry about it and becoming hateful, it should draw our attention because it offers us an opportunity to partner in creation, to be an agent for perfection, not just demanding perfection.
So is hate a driving force?
So if we understood our own anger, we would find that positive ingredient that can motivate us and energize us. And I really hope and believe that we're going through that today. Not just in the free world, but everywhere. We just we have no more tolerance for the imperfect. But we got to be careful not to vent our frustrations. So both things are happening today. People have become very intolerant of the imperfections, and some people are venting that intolerance in a very unhealthy way.
For 2,000 years, we had so much to learn, and we're still learning. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel anywhere that we're actually going to say, okay, lesson learned, let's do something about it?
We're a little learning disabled. So we need a really talented teacher who can get us past our disabilities. But everybody can learn if they're learning the hard way. There's no one is disabled when it comes to learning from your own experience. And I think that's what's happening today. So I just want to repeat something we've spoken about many times. The world is getting better by the minute. By the minute. The fact that it's not reflected in the news is no surprise. But let's not be deceived. And let's not be discouraged. The world is getting better by the minute. And someday it will hit the headlines. So far it hasn't.
Hope it will happen sooner rather than later. But we actually got a very, very good question regarding this topic over the week from Aviva. And here's what she's asking. I have read the teachings of many prophets on the coming of the Mashiach. From what I read, Jews need to be united for it to happen, or else based on that, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Will we see Mashiach soon? And is it going to be in a nice way?
For Jews to be united, on the one hand, that would be the biggest miracle of all. Miracle of miracles. Wonder of wonders. It's been 2,000 years that we have not been united. In fact, if you think about it, the whole Zionist dream of a Jewish state seems a little, it's an understatement, it seems a little unrealistic. Because before there was a state of Israel, Jews lived all over the world. We were scattered to the four corners of the world. And we were living primarily in very large countries. Russia, the Soviet Union, very big, very big. Even the other countries, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, big, a lot bigger than the land of Israel. And yet, Jews didn't get along. Right? White Russia, Ukraine, Galicia with the rest of Poland, we didn't get along. Somebody has a dream, and he says, let's take all these Jews who don't get along in big countries and squeeze them into a little country. What were you expecting? That was crazy. That wasn't a dream, that was a nightmare. So what was he thinking? What was anybody thinking? Survival of the fittest? Throw them all into a little country and see who survives? The thinking was that Jews don't get along because we live in different countries. So if you're a Russian Jew, you can't relate to a Polish Jew, or to a Romanian Jew, or to a Hungarian Jew, or to a German Jew. The ideal was, if we stopped being Russian Jews or Ukrainian Jews or French Jews, if we just went back to being Jews, then we would get along. We have so much in common.
But we didn't 2,000 years ago. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Right. So to correct that, let's get along again. Let's go back to being just us, Jews. What a nice idea. So now you have to wonder what went wrong. Why didn't this nice idea work? Well, Jews came back to the land of Israel, but instead of just being Jews, they divided themselves into political parties, into religious parties, the Haredi, the super-religious, the semi-religious, the former religious, the future religious. Nobody is just a Jew. So instead of being Ukrainian Jews, now we became political Jews. The right, the left, the center. Nobody is just a Jew in Israel. Everybody is aligned with some party, with some policy, with some philosophy, with some, this kind of yarmulke, that kind of yarmulke, the black hat, the white. But what if we really did just go back to being Jews? Jews. Like, excuse me, are you Jewish? Yes? Well, then let's put on tefillin. See, the beauty of that is not, are you religious? Let's put on tefillin. If you're religious, you already put on the tefillin. But it's not, are you religious? Are you Jewish? If you're Jewish, we have something in common. Although I'm religious and you're not. But that's irrelevant. We're both Jews. And putting on tefillin is Jewish. So, here's your tefillin. By putting on tefillin this one time out in the street in Manhattan is not going to make me religious. Yeah, that's fine. This is not about religion. This is about Jewish. So is there hope that Jews can get along? It's right there beneath the surface. Let's just stop playing games, and we are one people. Am echad. We are one people. We just keep getting distracted by all these issues and isms, including Judaism. I remember I was speaking, I think it was in Denver, Colorado, many years ago. I was talking about Judaism and Jews. And this one, when it comes to the comments and questions, this one guy said, I've been sitting here for an hour listening to you refer to me as Jewish, and I resent that. I thought, boy, you walked into the wrong program. What do you mean? This is about Judaism, about being Jewish. He said, no, you don't understand what I'm saying. I resent being described as Jewish. I'm not Jewish. If something is not quite hot and not quite cold, it's warmish. If it's not quite blue, it's bluish. I'm not Jewish. I'm a Jew. There's nothing ishy about it. That was perfect. Brilliant. That's our problem. We're too Jewish. We got to just be Jewish with nothing ishy about it. A Jew is a Jew. If we thought that way, we would get along fabulously, because that's the truth. But we keep getting distracted by how Jewish. How ishy are you? I'm very ishy. I'm very Jewish. You're not as Jewish. It's so silly. It's so petty. So yes, Jews being united is a condition that is necessary for the coming of Mashiach. And that's why we're working so hard for the last 50 years at getting rid of all these labels and titles and Orthodox Jews and Reform Jews and conservative Jews and New Age Jews and Reconstruction Jews, and got to get rid of all these titles. They're no good. There's Hasidic, and that's it.
I'm okay with that, but
well, but then which Hasidic? There are so many Hasidics, so it just has to be Chabad. That's it. No titles, just Chabad. The point is, Chabad is not a title. It doesn't describe a group. See, Lubavitch kind of describes a group, the group that came from the village of Lubavitch. But Chabad means using your mind. Or does that describe a one particular group? No, it's a universal thing. Universal, not even limited to just Jews. To use your mind to get closer to God so that you can love Him. That is not parochial. That's inviting, challenging. So yes, we must focus on what is common to all Jews. I'm optimistic about it.
Not everyone is.
Not everybody's optimistic?
Not everyone is optimistic. In fact, from Aviva's comment, I received that she just does not see it happening.
She's worried, yes. Yeah. Well, instead of just worrying, let's do something about it.
Please tell us what.
Go on. Reach out, reach out. Get past the apparent differences. The truth is, we got to go even beyond that. Got to reach out beyond the Jewish community even. We're all in this together. Now people say, why don't we all get along? Why can't we understand each other? After all, we all have the same needs. Shouldn't that unite us? I get hungry, you get hungry. I understand. We're both hungry, so we have something in common. That's not working very well. In fact, that's precisely where our problem is. You're hungry and I'm hungry, so who gets the sandwich? If I was hungry and you were not, we would get along perfectly, because I would get the sandwich and you wouldn't care. But when we're both hungry and there's one sandwich, okay, now we got a problem. So having the same needs is what makes us competitors. If you have the same need I have, then you're threatening me. You're competing with me. So having common needs does not unite us. It sets us against each other. What then can unite us? And it can't be just goodwill. You know, if everybody was nice and generous, we would all get along. Yeah, of course. That's a no-brainer. What unites us is if we have the same cause. The same cause. It's not my need, because my need makes me selfish. And if you have the same need, it makes you my enemy. But if we have the same cause, we both are trying to accomplish the same thing, then we become allies. Then we need each other, even if we're not the nicest people in the world, which we're not. So,
yeah.
What is that common cause? The common cause is we are here for the same purpose, created for the same purpose, and that is to make the world godly, to bring heaven down to earth, so that earth becomes more heavenly than heaven. That is our common purpose, our common goal. That's the reason we all exist. Now, God gave each of us an individualized, tailor-made portion of that purpose, which is rather obvious. Some people are born into this world in the 14th century, and their job was to deal with the issues, with the realities of the 14th century, and bring godliness into that condition. We were not created in the 14th century. So our job is different. Some of us are Jewish, some of us are not. There are male and there are female. There are the scholars and there are the doers. Everybody got a little piece of the action in your place into which you are created, in your era, in your generation, in your gender, and in your role in God's plan. You have your particular individual little piece of the world that only you can fix. That's why you are where you are. That's why you are who you are. That's why you have the talents you have, and no others, because you don't need any other to fulfill your purpose. So we can be content with the gifts we're given, because that's all we need. We're not lacking anything. God doesn't give us a job without giving us the ability and the opportunity. So all we need to do is say yes. God wants us to make the world godlier? Okay. I will do it. Where will I do it? Where I live. With what? With the gifts I have. When? The sooner the better. Now would be a good time.
I'd say so. Yes, I think it's the perfect time. And I think actually that is exactly what is happening to the world. The world is uniting for the good. I mean, there are still those others, but in general, I think people are getting good values, good morals, and they want to be together to fix things. They're getting together to fix things. So may it just continue.
More than ever.
Yes.
More than ever.
So God willing, it's just going to continue happening, and we'll get to that very, very good place that God intended us to get to. So, Rabbi Friedman, amazing. Again, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for your wisdom and your insights, and we look very much forward to our next meeting a week from today at 12:15. Well, all the best. That's all I can say, and thank you very much.